Hey everyone, my name is Nitya and you are at Daybreak Stitchery, which is my Flosstube channel. This is a channel all about cross stitch. I'm a cross stitcher, a crocheter, and very rarely a knitter. Today we're talking cross stitch though, and normally I do a video once at the end of each month just to show you what I've been working on during the whole month. Today though is going to be a little bit different. We're going to do a WIP Parade today. So I've got just piles, piles of projects all around. So we'll tackle them a pile at a time. And if you are like me and you love WIP parades and you love stitching while watching WIP parades, you could maybe use, I've been using a hashtag that Michelle Bendy Stitchy's been sharing. She shared it on her WIP parade, and it's parade progress 21_22. So if you're doing any stitching and you want to post, how your progress goes while watching, that'd be fun to see. I don't have any special hashtag just for my video, but feel free to use that one. It's been fun to see that a lot of people are already posting with that hashtag, so it's fun to see what everybody's been working on. Okay, so all the usual stuff, finishes, new starts, the giveaways from last month, all that I'm going to push to next month if that's all right, just because we have a lot to look at today. But I will show you one finish just because I still can't quite believe that I pulled it off. And it was this project by Cottage Garden Samplings. Snow and Love is the pattern. It's this little snowman family. And it's one of the more recent, if you've been watching Cottage Garden Samplings, they have a whole bunch of patterns that have come out recently, Christmas ones, wintry ones. And I just love this one because it looks like my sister and her family, my sister and her partner and my nephews. And so I just thought it would be so cute to stitch it for them. And I did. So I'll put a picture. I've already gifted it to them, so I don't have the actual item with me, but I'll put a picture up and I'll show you some close-ups of what it looks like. It was a very satisfying stitched finish, but very challenging for me personally to stitch. Just because I usually, if you know me, you know that I like to swap up. I stitch on a lot of different projects each month. I usually switch every 2 or 3 days. So to be able to finish this in time, I basically spent most of December working on this. And it got to there was one day when I remember thinking to myself, this doesn't feel fun. This feels like a chore to do it. So but it was just so fitting for my sister and the family that I just kind of pushed myself to do it. And then actually I didn't finish it in time because we do my side of the family, our holiday party, we do it a week before Christmas. And so like the night before I was scrambling, really trying to finish. And I had a few of those snowflakes left that are off to the side, and I just couldn't pull it off in time. So I told myself, well, let me just take it over there and show it to them. Because I also had this idea that I was kind of thinking, well, what if she doesn't want it? Like I wanted to leave her an out because not everybody likes to show cross stitch, right? We're a special bunch. I think we really love cross stitch. We love making it and we love putting it up in our homes, but it's not for everybody. And I didn't want to take all this time to stitch it to have her feel like she had to keep it. So I took it to our holiday party unfinished and unframed, and I just said, well, let me just show it to her. And that way, I'll give her an out. I'll just say, it's okay if you don't want to hang it up. I can give it to somebody else. And that way I wouldn't have to scramble to finish it. If she wasn't intending to put it up, and she just loved it. The first people I showed it to were to my sister, and then one of my nephews was home. And that's my nephew. Oh, I meant to bring it down here to show you. That's my nephew who sews. And he made me a little pillow this summer. I was going to bring it. I'll show it in my next video. But anyway, that they were just staring at it. They just loved it so much. So I thought, okay, I got home from our big gathering, and then the next day I finished it. It only took a couple hours to finish it up, and then I framed it and I took it over the following day. So yeah, it was in the end, I would say it was a satisfying stitch. I feel very proud of finishing it in such a short time. I started it late November and finished it the the weekend before Christmas. So yeah, I would definitely recommend stitching a cottage garden samplings pattern for sure. And I will be back to stitch more. I actually have one in my WIP Parade today that I'll show you. There are a lot of fantastic things going on in this pattern. So I mostly use the called for DMC. The fabric is a 36 count Whimsical by Color and Cotton. I love Color and Cotton. If you know me, you know I love that. They're one of my favorites for fabric and floss. And there were 2 specialty flosses called for, which I didn't use. I used my own from my stash. So one of them was for the white, is actually a specialty floss, but I just used DMC Blanc for that. And then the color, the red, lighter red color that's on the outside of the vest, the garments, and in the hats, that I used a Victorian motto. It was called Brick Road, and I think it was a good substitute because you can still see the contrast. That's contrasted with a darker red that's used in there, a DMC. It's like 814 or 817 or something, and the contrast worked out there. So lucky to have that in my stash. There were a lot of things to appreciate in this pattern. Like, okay, so the inside of the garments, or like the vest in the Papa's clothing, that kind of color changing that's going on, that's a pattern created by alternating a dark DMC red and that specialty floss. So it's just really clever. It's a really clever use of color. I really appreciated that. Or like the use of the 2 greens to make the scarves and the bow tie. There's just some nice things going on in this pattern. It really, really made me appreciate the designer. So definitely coming back to Cottage Garden for some stitching. All right, so we're going to get this WIP Parade going. And the first group of projects I'm going to show you is the set of projects that I've put on my WIPGO 2022 board. These are the projects that I kind of have at the top of my mind because the numbers have already been called. I'm ready to go. I feel really committed to finishing this year, these 5 projects. I read a thing on, I don't remember actually where I read this, but I always, around New Year's, I always read about like goal setting and mindset for the new year, And I was reading something about how if you're setting goals, you make a list of like 25 goals that you want to set for the new year. And then you circle 5 of them and you focus on 5 because you can tackle 5. You can't tackle 25. Your focus is scattered that way. And that's kind of what I feel like my WIPGO board is doing because I only put 5 projects on my WIPGO board and I repeated them over and over again. So the first one, and this is actually one of the ones it's called this month. This is, oh, I love the pattern upstairs. Every time I name a project during the WIP Parade, I'll either show you a picture or I'll insert a picture. But this is Squirrels of Sumatra. It's by Ink Circles. And here's my start on it so far. Let me move. I got this real cute needle minder. I gotta show you this guy from Abby Top Knot. Look at his face. He's just so cute. So this is the top of it. We're looking at the top left corner. So this is 18 count. Picture this plus Mystic. It's really pretty blue, isn't it? I want to grab some. They have some more of this at 123 Stitch, and I feel like I want to grab some more, but I'm not. I'm gonna wait. But it's stitching up really nice. This is Sulky. It's 4044, is it? Let me check. I don't have it written down. I want to say it's 4044. It's butterscotch. If you look up Sulky threads and look up butterscotch, that's the color. And it's like these golden yellows. It's stitching up really pretty. And look out, world. I think I'm ready to say that I like Sulky threads because I was stitching on this while watching WIP Parades yesterday. It was stitching up really fast on this 18 count Ada, and I was taking really long strands of it, like more than 2 feet, and using that to stitch, and it wasn't tangling. It wasn't, well, a little tiny bit of tangling, but not much. Really smooth with gliding through the fabric. I was shocked to find myself really enjoying it because I've struggled with Sulky in the past, but maybe it's just that the 18 count Ada is a good match for it. That's what people have been saying. So anyway, I'm doing 5 days of this for WIPGO 2022 in January. This is one of the ones that's been called for this month. So I hope to make really good progress. I was actually, before watching WIP parades yesterday, I had done up to like here, this part. So like all this I added during WIP parades, like these two parts right here. So it's stitched up quick, really quick. So I'll keep that going. I'm excited to get back to that. It's a big project, so it'll be a real feat if I can pull it off. Not if. I'm going to pull it off this year. I want to finish it this year. Okay, my other WIPGO project that was called for January that I'm going to be working on, I'll put a picture up. It's the Bookcase by Galliana. Really pretty pattern. And here's what I have on it so far. So I haven't picked it up since the last time. Isn't it looking so nice? I like every time I look at this pattern, I think, gosh, it's gorgeous. It's amazing what she's been able to pull off with just like a monochromatic. Look, with one color, she's able to show so much. So this is just the vase on one of the shelves. And this is a DMC Color Variations. It's called something Meadow, but I don't remember the number. 40, 45? No, I'm not going to guess. If you look up DMC Color Variations Meadow, it'll come up. So it's really pretty, just pale. It's got like all these pale tones variegated. There's a pale blue in there, pale green, a kind of beigey color. Very neutral. And the fabric is fantastic coloring cotton. This is called Onyx, and it's a 20 count Aida. So I'm doing 1/1 on it, and it looks pretty good on there. 20 count Aida is really funny. Like, I've tried other pieces on 20 count, other projects on 20 count Aida. And sometimes I'm having to use 2 strands on 20 count, and something like this, I'm using 1 strand. It might be because like this fabric is dyed so dark that maybe it like shrank a lot while dyeing. That's my only guess. So it's actually probably a little tighter than a normal 20 count. I don't know, but it looks great, and I'm going to stick with the 1 strand on that. I think there might be something that I actually like about the sulky, that it's a 1 strand, because I usually stitch with 2 strands over 2 if it's 36 count, or 2 strands over like 1 on 18 count. Stitching with 2 strands is a little bit cumbersome because I don't know about you if you stitch with 2 strands, but I'm constantly having to like untwist my thread and make sure that it's laying flat when I put stitch in. So each stitch has like these little pauses that add up. Whereas if you're stitching with the 1 strand, you can just zip, zip. You don't have to worry about it really twisting up that much. Okay, WIPGO, my WIPGO board. Another piece that's on my WIPGO board is this one here. And I'll put up a picture somewhere. It's, what is it called? Hygge Sampler, and it's by PatternsCrossStitch on Etsy. And it's basically like a Scandinavian-inspired pattern. I love it. It's really cute. It is deceptively challenging to stitch because you think because it's got all these separate motifs that you could just quick, whip up a motif every night or something like that, which you kind of can, but there's a lot of fill-in in some of these. Like, take this butterfly here. You're filling it. It's really like a filled-in motif. This bird is going to be a filled-in motif. So they just take a little longer than you think. This is, it's either raw natural 36 count or it's flax linen. It is 36 count. I'm using DMC. It's not the called for DMC on the pattern. I just made my own. It calls for a red, a blue, and then like a pale tone and white. So I'm using red, blue, a very light blue. There's some very light blue in there. And then I'm using a white. Also, I think I'm using 3865 as the white on there. Let me find a pattern. Like this flower has some white in it. So it'll be pretty. This is one I'm gonna see if my sister likes this one, because I have picked out a book about Hygge that I think she might like, and I thought I might like stitch this and then present her with the book too. I don't have like a date in mind or anything, just a, just because kind of thing. We'll see. I don't want to push it too much because I could see my family being like, oh great, she's gonna give us like all her stitch stuff now. I don't know if they will appreciate it if I overdo it. So anyway, that was Hygge Sampler. It might be called OwlForest Sampler, but it's by PatternsCrossStitch on Etsy. Okay, next one. I have a card for this one. It's Ink Circles, Turkish Delight. I'll put a picture up. And I just love this one so much. Oh, here, I have the, here's a picture of the finished one. It's Turkish Delight by Ink Circles. And the called for colors on it, I don't know if you're able to see it, but it's basically a darker color, which is like, technically it's a purple, and then a lighter color, which is a blue. It's Galliana flosses. But I am using, let me show you mine. Here's what mine looks like. So I am using Silks for You, PR075, that's the blue. And then Coloring Cotton, it's a limited edition teal, which is not so limited edition, I think, because in the shop it says that they're going to make more at some point. So anyway, it's a teal. It's called limited edition teal by Coloring Cotton. And this pattern has so many pretty things in it. Like, it's a challenging pattern, though. There's a lot going on. Like, look at how these two colors lay together here on this motif. Isn't that pretty? This right here. There's like a lot of fill-in that. It's not entirely symmetrical. That's what's challenging about this. There are little flourishes that are just a little bit different. So like if you do one side of a motif, the opposite side is not necessarily identical. So you really have to pay attention to the pattern. Now I put this on my WIPGO board 4 times for 5 days each. And I think this is the one that I'm closest to finishing of all my WIPGO board projects. So this is on Fiberlicious fabric. It's 18 count rustic fall. Isn't that pretty? It's such a nice neutral, and it shows off the colors. It's like a clay color almost. I love it. I'm excited to finish this one. Really excited. I want that one up on my wall. So that was Ink Circles Turkish Delight. Okay, another one that's on my WIPGO board is, how many have I shown you so far? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, this is the 5th one then. So this is Narnia by Jan Hicks Creates. And let me show you a little closer up too. It's really pretty. It's based on a wardrobe that Jan Hicks saw that had these intricate wooden carvings inside it. And so she designed this off of those carvings. And she called it Narnia because it's a wardrobe. And I'm using, this is Access Commodities. So Access Commodities has like 37 or 38 count. And I think it's Heron Gray is the color. And the thread is fantastic. Buttery soft Mrs. Sadas. The colorway is called Oxide. I got to show you some close-ups of this. Hold on. It's got this like beautiful green variegating into this like sunny yellow. So, so pretty. Let me show you the other side too. That yellow gets so bright sometimes. So sunny and beautiful. So I love that one. This was actually on my WIPGO board for 2021, which I abandoned in like March or something like that. But my goal for 2021, when it was called, I think it was called in January or February, but it was to stitch on it for 5 days. So all I had done was really like this much of it before that. So this whole band across I was able to do in that 5 days. So that's promising. It gives me an idea of what I'd be able to do. You know, it's on my WIPGO board. All of these projects are set up for 5 days. So whenever they get called, like my Squirrels of Sumatra that got called in the bookcase, this month I'll be doing 5 days on each of those. So it's just nice to see how much I could potentially get done in 5 days. So that's there. So those are the 5 projects on my WIPGO board for this year. I want to knock them out. My goal is to get those 5 done. So they're going to be up. I'm going to keep them basically. I have a bin that's behind the couch where I keep whatever projects I'm working on, you know, at the time. I cleared that out and I'm going to be putting my WIPGO projects in there. And then I'm starting a Sal, Kind Kapal Sal. I talked about it in my last video. That's going to be in there. And then I'm stitching Fragments in Time with Kim at cataloging my stitches, so that's going to be in there. But I'm trying to keep it very clear, except for like my WIPGO goals, so that I keep encouraging myself to go back to one of those to work, chip away at those. The cottage garden pattern I showed you was really good training for being a monogamous stitcher. I know for me personally, I need to switch up my projects a little more frequently, but I feel like it was good to see how much you can accomplish if you just stick with a project for a while. So I'm hoping that I'll go beyond the 5 days that's called for on my WIPGO board and actually like chip away at these projects beyond that. So I have 3 more to show you. These are like my backups. So for example, Turkish Delight, I have it on my board 4 times. So that's 20 total days of stitching. But if I finish it like by the second time it's called, if that's all it takes for me to finish it, then I'm going to replace the other 2 instances of it on my board with other projects. So one of my backup projects, I have 3 set aside, but honestly, I don't think I'm going to need 3 backups, but you never know. So this one is the Linens and Threads. It's this year's mystery sampler. Oh, that reminds. Oh my gosh, don't even get me started, you all. Do any of you Google 2022 stitch-alongs just to see what new trouble you can get into? Because I tell you, that's what I did this year, and I found a bunch that I liked. I mean, everybody knows the Lindy stitches, that Marvelous World one. That looks really good. Tempting Tangles has one that's called Dragon's Blood, I think, or Dragon's Breath, and it's not a dragon one, but it's based on a plant, like an herbal. There's a plant that has a resin that comes out of it that's used for medicinal stuff that's called Dragon's Blood, so it's based on that, but it's like a pretty kind of ink circly geometric pattern. That's tempting. And then there's one I'm curious about. There's a website for a like a Buddhist monk, and his website is One Point Mind, and he does an annual stitch along. So I'm kind of curious about that one too. So I'm like keeping my eye on these stitch alongs, but I don't think I'll be able to start any of them because I have too much going on. Anyway, I'm curious about what Linens and Threads is going to do for their 2022 stitch along, if they're going to do one and what's going on. I haven't, as of this morning, I haven't looked yet to see if anything's up about that. Anyway, this is this year's stitch along. It's Talavera. It's the Spanish tiles, the Mexican tiles. And every time I see Veggie Stitches, Carly, Veggie Stitches video, she's doing a beautiful version of Talavera, and the progress on it is way far along. But every time I look at that, I think, oh my gosh, I need to take that out and look at it, because it's on a fabric that I love. This is 18 count barnwood. It's one of my go-to fabrics. Picture this plus barnwood, 18 count. And I like the colors I chose for it. It's kind of a mishmash of DMC. This orange is sulky. This is that PR 075 that's in my Turkish Delight piece too. These are all DMC, I think, the rest of these. So I like the color combos I've chosen. I just never go back to it. So I'm hoping that I can kind of add to something on here too, like finish a tile or something. I don't know. But anyway, that's one of my backups for WIPGO. I have 2 more backups for WIPGO. One of them is Sunset by Rosewood Manor. I'm actually stitching it with the sunrise in mind, but I mean, it's got a lot of the similar colors. Instead of sunset, I'm going to think of it as a sunrise. I haven't done anything on this since I last showed it in one of my older videos, but it looks like this so far. Is it right side up? Yeah, that's the right side up. And this is the fabric that Denise, Black Ribbon Stitch Studio, sent me. It's really pretty, and it's called Daybreak, like my Flosstube channel. So I wanted to put something sunny on there, sunrisey on there, so this was perfect. And I think I'm going to take this out, actually. Let me write down. Oh yeah, it's March. So have you been seeing Sunshine Stitchers? If you belong to their Facebook group, for 2022, they've set up like these monthly themes. So for example, in March, they've said, hey, let's everybody stitch on Rosewood Manor patterns. So I was going to maybe take this out a little bit more frequently in April too, just because it's Rosewood Manor, and it'd be fun to kind of post progress on a Rosewood Manor piece along with that group. And what am I using? I told you about the fabric. This is 32 count even weave. I really like it. It's nice. Stitching on even weave is really nice. It's easy on the eyes too, because with linen, I'm often like struggling to find where to poke things. Even weave comes by its name, honestly, for sure. And the colors are classic colorworks. The called for colors in this pattern are all a brand that I don't shop from. So I did a classic colorworks conversion. If anyone's ever stitching on this and you want to see my conversion, let me know. I feel like it's pretty decent. There are a couple of variegated colors that just don't have a match, so I'm going to swap them out for something else. But I think what I'm happy about is that I wanted to find a pattern that would capture all the beautiful bright shades in a sunrise, and I feel like this is pulling that off. So that'll be fun. I will use this as a backup project too, in case I finish any of my other WIPGO ones. And then my last backup is another ink circles. If you can't tell already, I'm a big fan of ink circles. This is Cirque des Cœurs, Circus of the Hearts. And this is on a, the fabric is Fabrics by Stephanie. It's Hocus Pocus, which I first saw on a video by Debbie Mama Bear Stitchery. She's doing Halloween at Hawk Run Hollow on this, and it looks amazing. So I'm using this, and this is a Silks for You. Hang on, let me see if I can tell you which Silks for You it is. PR 141. It's a beautiful, like a magenta pink. Really, really pretty. So this will be a backup too. I really enjoy stitching on this, and this stitched up quick, really quick. But I had to, oh, there's a little variegation. I don't know if you're seeing that. I don't think you'll see it. There's a tiny bit of variegation in this floss. It's Silks for You, and Color and Cotton does it too sometimes. The variegation is very subtle, where part of it, it's basically all magenta, right? But part of it is like, has a matte finish kind of, and part of it has a shiny finish. So it just looks a little different. It's probably just the slightest tonal change in color to pull it off. Anyway, it's really pretty. And so that will be a backup as well. So those are my WIPGO goals, the first 5 at least, and then these 3 backups. So I'm going to set these aside, and then I'm going to be right back with you, and we're going to go through the next. That was just the first pile of like 6 piles of stuff to show you. So let me grab the other pile, the next pile, and then I'm going to be right back with you. Okay, so the next stack of stitching that I have to show you is all fall and Halloween. I love fall stitching. I love fall. I love fall colors. I love picking up leaves. I love watching the the leaves change colors. I love the cooler weather. Chicago does get hot weather sometimes, like very humid and hot. So it's nice, like a breath of fresh air. And I even, I'll put a picture in. I think I still have my leaves that I collected. I had been pressing them between a placemat and a tray on my table. I think they're still up there. Anyway, I love fall. So that's definitely reflected in my stitching. And then when we moved this year and we are in a neighborhood that has a lot of trick-or-treaters for Halloween, that kind of motivated me to do more stitching for Halloween too. So I have tons of seasonal stitching to show you. So we're going to start with 2 that actually you haven't seen before because I just started them this month. This was actually my travel stitching. We just got back from Oklahoma City seeing my in-laws, who I hadn't seen since the Christmas before the pandemic. So it was really nice to see them. We decided to drive down. I wasn't feeling good about being around a lot of people at the airport, and tickets are just so expensive now. So we drove, and we just got back a couple days ago. So I, for some reason, packed a lot of Halloween stitching in my travel stitching. So I got a couple things to show you. So here's the first one. Isn't it just so precious and cute? This is the new one by OwlForest. I'm a big fan of OwlForest patterns, OwlForest embroidery, and this is their new black vintage pattern. It's a monochromatic piece. I think if you use their called for colors, they have a color that's called black gray or something. It's like a charcoaly kind of color. I'm using DMC 310, and I'm stitching it 1/1 on a 32 count even weave. Look out, everybody. So it's super, super teeny. don't know where we're going to get, maybe that's the best view of it. And I am going to, so it's a Victorian pattern. It's got, I'll try to put a picture up. It's got like a house and this Victorian couple and a carriage. Well, I saw this bat and I thought, I'm going to make this a Halloween pattern. So I'm going to change some things in the pattern. I'm going to put more of these bats in. I'm going to make the couple, I'm going to make their faces skulls. Even the mermaid down at the bottom, I'm going to make her face a skull. Try to see if I can either chart or find some like skull and crossbones kind of motifs to put in. And then in my other OwlForest patterns that I will show you, they've already got pumpkin motifs in some of their other autumn patterns. So I'm just going to take some of those and put them in here. So I'm going to Halloween it up. So I love that little bat, how that turned out. And there's like hotter balloons and it's sort of like steampunky Victorian. So I started a Sal. I think I'm the only one doing it. It's called Victorian Halloween Sal for anyone else who wants to Halloween this up with me. But if you search Victorian Halloween Sal, you can follow progress on this, whatever I decide to do with this. So I actually contacted Ymir at Almond M&Ms because when I had started stitching on this, I was struggling with not seeing it because even weave, like I said earlier, is actually really easy to work with. And 1/1 is not too bad on this. I'm using one strand of DMC, but I was struggling with my needle. It was struggling to push through the fabric. I was using a size 28 needle, which is like, I think, the smallest one. So I asked Ymir about it, and she was really nice to get back to me. She basically said, well, check the brand of needle that you're using because not all size 28s are the same. And she said she uses Boan needles. So I did have a Boan 28 with me, and oh my gosh, it made all the difference. It's much skinnier. It just glides through the fabric. So Boan 28 needles on these tiny counts. I'm going to have to remember that. The fabric is, check that beautiful orange. It's called Orange Soda. It's by Color and Cotton. And I was a very temporary member of one of the fabric clubs by Color and Cotton. I basically, signups opened up, I want to say like in March or April, and I thought, oh, let me jump on that. And the only club that was available was an Even Weave Brights club, which I don't really stitch on Even Weave usually. The bright colors, I don't mind. Well, the first fabric I got was this, and I thought, I don't know what I'm going to use an orange fluorescent for, but okay, we'll hold on to it. It's called Orange Soda. And then the next month's shipment was like a fluorescent pink. And I just thought, I'm probably not going to use these. And then it's 32 count even weave. I don't know. I usually stitch on 36 count linen or 18 count Aida. So I canceled my club after just two, shipments, just because I didn't think, I was going to accumulate fabrics that I wasn't going to use. Well, I'm so glad that I held on to this one because actually I think it looks really good with the black around it. So this is going to turn out really nice. So again, that's OwlForest. It's called Black Vintage. Oh, and so the pattern is, I don't know what the stitch count is. I should know, but I don't have it written down. It's pretty large. It's like 200-ish by 300-ish, let's say. Well, when you're doing 1/1, look at what's happening. So this right here is the middle. And this right here is the farthest edge. So I'm already halfway across the top on that one. That's what doing 1/1 will do to you. So this is going to be tiny. So basically, if that's the length, it'll go to like that between these 2 points here. That's going to be how wide it is. So I'm just super curious to see how this turns out. I can't wait. I didn't have to use a magnifier, but I did have to use really, really good light. And that's a thing that's kind of tricky. I'm curious to know for any of you who like travel to family members or travel a lot and do travel stitching, how do you handle the light? Because you're in a new setting and you don't always have the outlets you need, or like my in-laws are also just used to a different level of light. They keep things pretty dark in there, like when watching TV and stuff. So like if I'm stitching with Steve, I always have a lamp on over my stitching. And even if we're watching, like a TV show where it's dark or whatever, we'll have that one lamp on for me to stitch. But over there, it was kind of like a lights out situation. We're watching the movie, we're watching the show, lights out. We were watching season 2 of The Witcher. We saved it to watch it together. And so then I couldn't do any stitching while watching, which is different for me. I do a lot of stitching while watching TV. So I'm just wondering now, is there some kind of lighting situation that I should be looking into that, I don't know, that wouldn't require, like maybe a battery operated lamp or something? I don't know. I'm going to have to think about that. We don't travel enough to have to really get anything, but just something to think about. Okay. This one is a total surprise start. I just fell in love with it and I said, everything needs to stop so we can start this right now. Okay, so my stitchy friend, Sarah, who is Mod Cross on Etsy, a fantastic designer on Etsy and like very sweet person, she messaged me about a freebie, a Jardin Privé freebie called Mon Beau Sapin. And I'll see if I'll find it, try to put a picture up. It's really cute. It's got musical notes, I'm guessing so Mon Beau Sapin is the French version of Oh Christmas Tree. It means my beautiful evergreen. And so it has music notes for the song and like a little wintry scene, and it's stitched up in a red. It's really, really pretty. So Sarah messages, she's like, isn't this just beautiful? And I said, yes. So what do? I go over to Jardin Privé's website, which I've never done before. You think I'm going to come out of there with nothing? Of course not. I come out with all sorts of stuff. So the pattern that I really fell in love with is Lady Halloween. I'll throw a picture up. It's sort of like a Quakery witch, basically, is the best way to describe it. So there are like pretty Quaker motifs, some unusual motifs too that I haven't seen. Beautiful viney flowers, and her whole dress. She's got this big open dress that has these beautiful flowery motifs in it. It's really pretty. What sold me on it, though, is the pictures that are on the website for like the stitched models. There's one that's stitched on orange. It's the called for colors, so it only uses 3 colors. It's DMC 310, DMC 317, and DMC 318. 317 and 318 are gray, but they're a gray that has like a tinge of purple. Like if you look at it in certain lights, it almost it's like a lavendery gray kind of color. Really pretty. That should be called like Earl Grey or something. I don't know what the color is actually called. But anyway, they stitched those 3 colors on an orange fabric. And I said, stop right there. I have a fabric that's perfect for this. I want to stitch this. Are you ready for this? This is Lady Halloween. And it's on a 36 count. This fabric is called Pumpkin King. And it's by, I'm confused as to who it's by. I think it's Picture This Plus, but I got it on that Stashtopia website. And so some of those fabrics are labeled Atomic Ranch, and I'm not quite sure. You're going to know better than I will what the connection is between Atomic Ranch and Picture This Plus. Anyway, I saw this and picked it up, and I thought, well, I love the modeling on it so much, and I knew I was going to do Halloween at some point, that I would save it for that. And then I saw this Lady Halloween. I thought, yes, I have the perfect fabric for this. Let me see if I can show you. One of the parts that I love so much is this flowery kind of viney thing that's happening over here. Isn't that so pretty? So like on the screen, it's looking kind of blue. When I look at it, it's sort of like, this looks like a lilac lavender. It's not, it's a gray. And this is a gray, but it looks sort of, it has like purple undertones to it. It is just so pretty. I just love it so much. So all of this I accomplished basically while I was with my in-laws. I just stitched all day because all we do is sit around and talk. So like we start the morning at the dining table, and then we're having breakfast and sitting and talking, and then we move it to the living room and we sit and talk and catch up, and then we have lunch, and then we sit and talk and catch up. And so anytime we're sitting and not eating, I'm stitching. So this was really, really fun. The black is showing up pretty well too. Like, isn't this motif, hang on, let me show you. Isn't that motif pretty? And it's looking really nice on the on that orange. So very, very happy with this. Very excited to keep it going. I love the brightness of that orange. This is what I love about fall, all these pretty colors. Isn't that something spectacular? And it just makes you feel excited to put stitches into it, you know, when you have like just when the color combos work out. So anyway, Jardin Privé, I'd heard of them before because like Sunshine Stitchers, I think they stitch a lot of their patterns. So I knew they existed, but I don't know, I was never drawn to seeing anything there. And they have really pretty stuff. They have a beautiful whole series of monograms. So like you stitch a big block letter and then there are things inside the pattern that start with that letter. They have a bunch of cute things. I would love to do that, like for our house. Maybe you stitch like the N for Nitya and the S for Steve or something. I don't know. Let's finish something else first before we start a new one. Okay, next one is an OwlForest pattern. I have a few of their autumn. They have a lot of autumn patterns. So what is this one called? This is Autumn Still Life. And it looks like this. And to be honest, it doesn't look like much yet because I've done like parts of motifs. So you're not going to recognize much. But basically up here, these are the bottom petals of a sunflower. There's a sunflower that's coming in and you're seeing like the seeds up here. This right here, I'm actually really proud of this. This is the top half of a gourd. There's like a wide and kind of squat gourd. And I'm proud of that motif because, so I'm using the called for OwlForest threads on this and they're highly variegated. And one of the things that's really beautiful about OwlForest, like when you look at their model stitches, is that they're very deliberate about the use of color from their variegated threads. So for example, if you have a motif, like some kind of sampler that has like two birds in the corners, they will start with a dark hue on both of those birds and then slowly variegate it down to a light shade and they will match perfectly. And to do that, you have to, oh gosh, there's a term for this where you like deliberately use certain sections of your thread, your variegated thread, so that you're planning where each color will go. Michelle G was just, Bendy Stitchy was just using this term in her latest video. You're going to know what it is, but it's not coming to me right now. But basically, I tried that normally I don't care. I just, as long as there's not an abrupt kind of clash of colors, it doesn't matter to me where the colors and variegated thread show up. Really, I don't have the patience to line it up or organize it. But I said, let me just give it a go on this gourd. So that's what I did. So I stitched like this section, this side of it first, and I used the light color on top and had it variegate down. Then I stitched the middle section and I did the same thing. I started with the lightest tone and had it variegate down, and then I did the other side too. So it looks really good, doesn't it? That's what happens when you actually take a little time to organize your floss a little bit. I don't know if I can pull it off on all the motifs. I don't know if I have the patience to do that, but I do like the effect that it achieved on that one, and I get why people do it. It's it also leads to wasting floss a little bit because sometimes you have to snip a part of it shorter to get to the color that you want, so then you're wasting bits of it. So that's also another reason why I don't do it very often, but gosh, the effect is pretty, isn't it? So something to think about. Anyway, this was OwlForest. What did I say it was called? Autumn Still Life. This is on a 40 count anthracite, and I'm using 2 strands over 2. This is about to be a snail down here. Let me show you the body. This right here, this yellow orange is good. It's the body of a snail, so the shell's going to come in a second. It's really fun. I like, you know, when I saw all the bright colors, I thought right away, let me do it on like a muted fabric, you know, and see how it turns out, and I like it. I have to go back to that. Oh, I got a picture right here. So this is so do you see that big sunflower and then that wide and squat gourd? That's what I've got going so far. Okay, next one is a Halloween one, and I have to look up what some of these are called. This is Dancing Skeletons. I don't remember who the designer is, but I'm listing all of these project names and designers down below so you can look and see. It's called Dancing Skeletons, so it's on Etsy. It's super cute. I started this, Chris from PatternsCrossStitch was doing a hashtag spooky summer stitch this summer, and I just saw this and it reminded me of Steve because he's always doing happy dances and silly dances to like lighten the mood. And so this is a it's like a grid of, I want to say like 9 different skeletons just doing different dances, and they're so cute. And this is a DMC color variations. I don't have the, I'm sorry, I'm unprepared. I don't have the color written down. But to me, it looks like old bones because it's like pale yellow and kind of a golden color. The called for on it is a white, but I just thought this looks more like bones. So I went with that. And I do want to finish this one. This would make really cute smalls, but I think I'm going to stitch it as a whole thing. It's 18 count navy. It's stiff. So I don't know what kind of Ada is stiff. 18 count Ada, like a Zweigart. I don't know. I don't know what kind it is, but it's stitching up pretty well. The tricky part with this, I know why I haven't gone back to this. It's for the counting because the skeletons on the pattern are really spaced out. And I think I had been thinking of not stitching all of them, maybe stitching like 4 of them, just do a grid of 4 of them. And I was having trouble lining up. Like I wanted the center of one to line up with the center of the other one. So that's going to require a little bit of calculation. Like I have to figure out how tall each one is and then center them. And I think I was just getting lazy and I didn't want to do that. But I need to because it's stitched up. Like this was a day stitch, basically. It was nothing to stitch it up. So that was Dancing Skeletons. I don't remember the designer, but I will list them below. And it's on Etsy. So if you search for Dancing Skeletons, Etsy, you'll find it. Okay, next one is a Teresa Kogut pattern. It's Silhouettes. I love this one. I love all the like kooky faces and like that pumpkin standing by the tree, that little Frankenstein, and there's just some fun things going on in this pattern. So I started it and never did go back to it, but I think I'm going to take it out this year, and especially in, let's see, I think it's December. Sunshine Stitchers, they have Teresa Kogut as one of their themed, like their monthly themed, and I want to say it's December. They're stitching on Teresa Kogut. So here's what it looks like so far. This is a 14 count Ada. It's Cantaloupe by Color and Cotton. And then the threads are Gloriana. It's charcoal. And I got a bunch of Gloriana. This might have been one of the ones. I don't remember. But I got a few different Glorianas on sale. Abby, Top Knot Stitcher, over the summer had put a bunch of Glorianas on clearance. So I picked up some different colors. So I only picked up like 2 skeins of this charcoal. I don't think it's enough to finish it, especially since this fabric is a 14 count Ada. Don't ask me why. I don't know why I picked out a 14 count. Sometimes I just panic when I like a color and I want to get it and then they don't have the right count. I'll just get whatever's available. But the problem for me with 14 count, it's not a problem. It's just a thing to keep in mind. I use 3 strands on 14 count because I want the coverage to be really tight. So that makes it complicated with stitching. It's not a good combo to stitch silk with 14 count because it's eating up all my silk, basically. It uses up a lot of silk, but sure does look nice though, doesn't it? Isn't it pretty? And you can really see the variegation. It's a gray and like a darker, almost a black gray. So that's a fun one. This fabric is so soft. I just love Color and Cotton so much. So anyway, I'll try to chip away at that this year. Okay. Next one, this isn't really an autumn pattern, but I put it on an autumn, like a Halloween named fabric. So I'm just keeping it with my Halloween stitches. So this is by CrossStitch Row, CrossStitch RO on Etsy. And it doesn't really have a name. I'm calling it Monochromatic Tree. And it's on this stunning, beautiful fabric by XJU Design. It's called Halloween. Hang on a sec. Halloween something. Halloween leaf? Oh, Halloween pumpkin. It's called Halloween pumpkin. Isn't it so pretty? So it's got nice modeling in it. To me, it looks almost like a sunset or a sunrise, I guess. With seeing the trees and the birds silhouetted against the sun. It's pretty. So I really like that one. It's a little bit challenging. I'm using Pattern Keeper to track this one, and it's challenging because you put stitches into it without really knowing what the big picture is, if that makes sense. Like I zoom in on Pattern Keeper and it's like, okay, well, you got to do 3 stitches here and then angle this way and then angle that way. It's just, it looks like a random assortment of stitches when you're that close up. And it's only when you kind of look back at it, you're like, oh my gosh, that's the top of a tree. That's a bird. Those are branches. But when you're stitching it, you don't really know what you're doing. You don't know which part of the tree you're stitching up. It's hard to visualize. You're just trusting that, you know, when I put in those stitches in that shape, it's going to look like something eventually. So love that one. Definitely want to come back to that one. I love all my projects. I've already I actually have more. I've ditched a few while going through preparing for this video. There's stuff I've put aside I'm not coming back to. So everything I'm showing you is stuff I really love. Okay, next one. This also is not particularly fall, but it reminds me of fall. I'll try to put a picture up of this one. It's by WIPGO on Instagram. They have a blog, and they actually, oh, I didn't bring it. They have a new pattern that's in the new Stitchy Day magazine. It's really cute. Anyway, they had sent me, I had commented on one of their Instagram posts about a pattern I really loved, and it had like flowers on the top and then squirrels on the bottom. And I said, oh, that's so cute. They sent it to me, and I'm sure it's on their blog by now. It's been a while. So anyway, I started it on a little scrap of 36 count squirrel. I think it's by XJU Design. And then I'm using 2 of the threads that came in my monthly thread club by Color and Cotton. I don't remember what they're called. The 2 colors are, oh, one is called like Iced Blueberry, I think. The other one might be Hayride. I think those are the 2 colors. I'm a little worried that I won't have enough to finish. And this one I've shown before, I'm worried that the negative, so you do negative stitching on this, right? You're stitching around the motifs and then it will reveal the pattern that's left behind. Well, I'm not sure that the contrast, actually today in the light it's showing up okay. I wasn't sure if the contrast between the floss and the fabric was enough for the motifs, the unstitched motifs to stick out. So like, for example, over here, are you seeing the top of a squirrel head? You kind of are today. Today it kind of looks like you could see it a little bit right over here. So that's one squirrel, and then it's facing another squirrel that's going to be on this side. So maybe it'll be okay in the end to just leave. I had toyed, or I had kind of been thinking, well, should I just go ahead and stitch in the motifs instead of leaving them blank? I don't know. I'm going to play around with that and see. I've made mistakes on this, so it's not going to be perfectly symmetrical. It's hard to spot, but I can see it because I know where I left it. In one of these little motifs along here, they don't match up. I miscounted somewhere in there. I really want to finish that up and then send it to them because they were so nice to send that pattern to me. So I want to get that done. Gotta get that moving. Okay. This one, so this is the first of many projects that I have stitched on fabric that I no longer use, like shop. I no longer shop from certain brands. So if I don't name a fabric, that's why. And this is one of them. So this is a really fun blackwork pattern, and it's called the Spooky Cell. It's by the Steady Thread, and I'm really enjoying this one. It's got these pretty kind of lacy motifs in there. Basically, I'll put a picture up. It's these octagons. Each one has a different Halloween-y theme in it, and then it's got a really pretty border going all around. No, actually, the border might be on the top and the bottom. But anyway, I'm just using DMC threads on that, and it's on an 18 count Aida, so it's stitching up super, super tiny, but I like it. I like what's happening with it, and it'll be pretty to work up. Blackwork is interesting. It's so, like, it works up so fast, you know, as you're just stitching outlines, basically. So it's kind of interesting to see it worked up. This one is Mama Witch X Stitch, which, by the way, if you are still interested, I'm giving away patterns by Mama Witch X Stitch. The giveaways are in my last video, so I'm not going to announce them until next month, so you can still go watch over there and enter if you're interested. This is Wicked Siblings, and I really love it. I didn't do much on it this year besides just the leaves on the tree, and they're coming up really well. I like that. I'm using the called for DMC. There are quite a few colors in this pattern, and it's going to be really pretty. I like what's happening with it so far. There are a lot of fun little motifs that make up part of the Mama Witch cross stitch patterns. I love that. Okay. Next one, I don't know what the official name of this. Oh no, I do. It's Ruja Osin. It's an OwlForest, so I remember the Russian name. It's redheaded fall, redheaded autumn. And I'm using the hashtag pumpkin house sal that Alicia started, Alicia Resist Stitch. And so here's what I have on it so far. This is on 18 count curry by Zweigert. It's a little stiff to stitch on, but it's okay. I like the color of it. This I distinctly remember, like every time I pull this out and look at this color, I think of a table, like an old tablecloth that my parents used to have when I was really little. So it would have been from like the late 70s, early 80s. I don't know. I just keep flashing it. It must have had embroidery on it too, I think, because I kind of, it reminds me of something stitched, and I think it was that tablecloth. I'm going to have to ask my mom about it. I wonder if she still has it. But anyway, it was this color, and it had these sorts of color, something designs or something on it. Anyway, this is a mishmash of threads. This is DMC 919, which, by the way, wouldn't that make a pretty color for a fox? I made it a squirrel, but that's a very foxy color. These are DMC here. This is Weathered Barn by Gentle Art. It's really pretty. It's not going to show up on this video, but it's like a sort of a brownish red. It's very pretty. This is DMC. I want to say it's like 926. The green is one of those clearance Glorianas that I got from Abby Top Knot. It's Forest, I think. So I just grabbed a bunch of stuff from my stash and tried to match the colors. No, I didn't. I don't even know if I matched the colors. I made the colors my own. Like, for example, this pumpkin, I made it turquoise. I got a really pretty, not turquoise, like a gray blue. I got a really pretty grayish blue pumpkin this fall, and I just kept thinking about it, and I thought, I want to stitch something with that color. So that's what's going on there. It's 18 count, so I'm using 2 strands over each stitch on that one. Okay, next one is by Rosewood Manor. It's Autumn Quakers. Do I have the picture? Yeah, you know this one. Everybody knows this one. Autumn Quakers by Rosewood Manor. It's a big one. It'll take me forever to do this one. And I restarted. I had started it 1/1 on a 28 count, and it was okay, but I restarted it on a 20 count Ada. So this is an example of a 20 count where I'm having to use 2 strands. And it's all right. It's Vintage Country Mocha. Yeah, it's Vintage Country Mocha. You can tell because it's printed on one side and then blank on the other side. I'm using the called for Valdani, and it's a 3-stranded thread. So I'm wasting a strand because I'm having to use 2 strands, and it's variegated. It's hard to match up again. So I'm not crazy about that, but it does look pretty though, doesn't it? It's stitching up nicely. So I'm excited to see where, how that goes. Okay, the next one is a super exciting one. It's The Collectors by Autumn Lane Stitchery. And Matt, NBC Stitcher, and I, we started a sal that is the Autumn Lane Witchery Sal, hashtag Autumn Lane Witchery Sal. And you could stitch on any Autumn Lane, like spooky, witchy, Halloweeny pattern and tag that. This is one of the most fun hashtags to follow, I feel like, because I've seen the coolest variety of like fabric choices and thread conversion, all different, like people really let their creativity shine when it comes to cross stitch, and it's just fun to see that. So I'm stitching on the Collectors. I really like it. It's spooky. I like all the greens, and I'm putting it on a Fiber on the Whim fabric, Pistachio. And I haven't done anything much with this since the last time I showed it. But anyway, here's what I got so far. So we've got the main collector. You can see their hat in the middle, and then I've got one of the background collectors kind of forming down here at the bottom. The trees are coming in, the shadows. You can see the branches up there. Let me see if I can make it a little bit smaller and show you. So it's looking really pretty. I like the kind of spooky greens that are in it. It's like the DMC 500s, 501. It's sort of like a blue green, like a dark blue green. It's really pretty. So I'm liking that a lot. This fabric is fantastic to stitch on. Fiber on a Whim, it's 18 count Ada. It's got some nice kind of modeling to it too. So it's going to blend in great because in the picture, it looks like a green fabric in the background. So I think it'll be a good match. It'll be a really good match for it. And all these colors, you can still see the fabric through the colors. So it'll just add like another layer of shadow in the back to have the right color fabric. So pretty excited about that. There's so many nice autumn lane patterns. There's a really cute one with, I want to say it's called something Wicked This Way Comes. I think it's that one, but it's got 2 trees and then it has things happening like there are kids walking to a haunted house across the top branches. There's a beautiful moon and then there are witches like a cauldron or something at the bottom. It's really pretty. Let's finish collectors first before we start on that one. Okay, next one is Cottage Garden. It's Autumn Dream. So this is the other I had told you when I was talking about Snow and Love earlier. I told you I had started another Cottage Garden one, so it was this one, Autumn Dream. I think it's so pretty, and I chose it because I love that little pumpkin house down there. So I started it over the summer. This is on Mystic Fabrics. Please Scream Inside Your Heart is the color of the fabric. It's really pretty. It's like a muted mauve-y pink. I really like it. And the stitching is going along pretty well. It's a very satisfying stitch because you have these little there's a lot of fill-in stitching with Cottage Garden samplings. There's a lot of stitches. But when you look back at it, it's really pretty. Like those flowers that are coming along, it took effort to stitch all the fill-in, but they do look really satisfying when it's done. I've started a little bit of the bird. The pumpkin house is going to go in over here. And then there's this wreath comes around like this. So pretty happy with that. I like it. I like all the colors. I think this is not the called for fabric. I won't take it out of the package. I'm not sure what the called for fabric is, but it is sort of like a pinky, tanny beige. So I think the colors go well. When I laid them out on this fabric, it felt like it went well. So I like it. To me, it looks sort of dreamy, doesn't it? Look kind of like fantasy or dreamy. So I really like how that one's coming along, and I got to get back to that one, like with all my projects. Okay, another one is an OwlForest. We're down to just 2 more left in this stack, and then we're going to go grab another stack. So this is also OwlForest, and I'm just in love with it. Oh, let me hold it up the right way. It's an acorn sampler, and I love it. I just love it so, so much. Isn't that pretty? Like these beautiful vines, even this little acorn with the decoration in there, these little teeny acorn, that leaf. Oh my gosh, I love it so much. And I'm using a Threadworks. It's a variegated thread by Threadworks. It's marooned is the color, and I don't remember the numbers on it. Did I write it down? It's called marooned, but I don't remember the number. Threadworks has numbers on their flosses. On the tags, they put a number, but they also have a name, but they don't put the name on the tag. So anyway, if you Google marooned, you'll see what it is. And it's a really pretty, it variegates between brown, maroon, and gray. That's what's happening, and I just love it. And I don't know why I didn't go back to this. I started it over the summer, and I didn't go back to it, and it's so pleasant to stitch on. This is an 18 count jade by Picture This Plus. And gosh, the more I look at it, I want to come back to this more frequently. I mean, I want to come back to all my projects frequently. I started everything that I just fell in love with, and now I have all these projects I want to finish. 2022 is I really want to try to finish some things or chip away at what I have already. So I have plenty to choose from what I've started. Okay, I have one left to show you in the fall autumn category. And this one I'm in a real pickle because I have lost my chart for it. And it should be a really quick finish because it's only like 60 by 70 stitches or something. But I can't find the chart. I don't know what I did with it. But anyway, it's a Pana pattern. It came in a kit, and it's a chokeberry sprig. Chokeberry is a native plant around here, and it has these little berries. And I liked all the kind of the autumn leaf colors on that. Aren't the threads pretty? When you look at them. But I don't know where my chart is, so I'll show you what I have so far. It's really nice. This is also, for a small pattern, it's a bit challenging because there's a lot of color changes. Let me see. See how there's so many color changes in there? That makes it a little tricky, so I'm not drawn to going back to it, even though it is so super tiny and it should be quick to finish. There's some little back stitching in there too on the leaf. So if I can ever find the pattern again, I'll go back to it. It's on Soft Apricot, 18 count by Color and Cotton, which is a nice pale peach. So it's a nice contrast to all the oranges that are going on in the pattern. I'm going to use the other half of this to stitch Sican Bird by Peruvian Flare, but I have other Peruvian flares to finish first, so we'll talk about that later. Okay, so that's all my fall stitching. So I'm going to be right back. I'm going to put this pile away and then grab my next stack of stuff and then meet you back here. Okay, everybody, how are we doing? Are you taking breaks like I am? We're back with the next stack of stitches, which is what I'm calling my sort of like diversity inclusion / representation matters stack. So it could be because of the designer, increasing the representation of whose patterns we're stitching, or it could be the material in the pattern. It's just trying to diversify a little bit what's represented in my stitching. So starting off with, this is kind of a holdover from the Halloween stack, but it's Hex Hotel by Dee's 20 Stitches. And if you know and love Dee like we do, they've just been like instrumental in teaching me all sorts about how to be a better ally. So I've been really appreciative of that. And their patterns are awesome. They're really fun to stitch. So Hex Hotel is a favorite of mine, and it's on this Fiberlicious fabric, which is called Sun Kiss. Really pretty fabric. The moon is in Étoile. I don't think you'll get to see any of the sparkle in it, but it's sparkly and it's fun to do. And I'm doing my own colors. I'm using the pattern calls for like a greenish yellow and a purpley shade, so I just picked my own greenish and purple shades, and then DMC 310 is on there too. So fantastic pattern. I really enjoy that. I would love to get this done for this Halloween. That's something, add it to the list of stuff I want to get done in 2022. It was Fiberlicious Sun Kiss was the fabric on that. Okay, next one is Quote by Louise Roussel, who's an amateur cyclist and an activist in France, and she speaks up for women's rights in athletics and like being a female athlete. And I'm stitching a bicycle as a tribute to her, and then also a quote. The quote is going to say, pour que chaque femme puisse découvrir combien le vélo change la vie. May every woman discover how life-changing cycling can be. And the bicycle is this is basically all kind of put together by me using freebies. So this is a freebie by Brigitte Dado. It's using a Color and Cotton, one of my flosses of the month, called Admiral Blue. Very pretty, variegated blue. The text is a free font pattern by Lord Libidan. And this, I don't remember what color this is, but this is also a thread of the month thread club Color and Cotton. The fabric is a Fortnite fabric. It's Luminous Warmth by Fortnite. Very pretty, sunny, kind of cloudy, sunny yellow. Love that one. I canceled my Color and Cotton thread club just because I have stuff accumulating, but I love those threads so much. Okay. Next one, you haven't seen this in ages, and I do need to, I'm going to put this, I think this is going to be a couch, behind the couch box project. This is a Bharatanatyam sampler. So Bharatanatyam is a traditional dance from India, and my friend Geeta has danced that. She and my sister both danced that their whole lives, their whole childhood, not their whole lives, but I wanted to make a tribute to her. She loves that form of dance, and so I thought this would be a cute item to stitch and gift to her. I don't know what this fabric is. It's 36 count linen. Oh, I found a needle. Not sure. I'm not sure what the fabric is, but the motifs are from Balade en Asie. It's this Véronique Angenger book that's got motifs from all over Asia, and it's got a really nice set of patterns from India. So I found a whole bunch of those dancers. So I got it. I think what I need to do is just try to stitch like a dancer every month, because I mean, it's hardly anything. It's just like one monochromatic motif. So I think I'm going to keep this by the couch and just get myself to chip away at it, do one. I have projects that are designated as gift stitching, and then I like never work on them. So it's going to like, we're both going to be retired by the time I get this to her if I keep it up at this rate. So I'm just using like a random bunch of bright colors to stitch that one. I'm going to put in a whole bunch of different dancer motifs. So we'll see how that goes. Maybe find a border in that book to put around it or something. I'm not really sure yet. Okay, next one. This is a pattern that is called Tetris. It's Palestinian Tetris, and this is a freebie by Jordan Nasser. It's called Let's Tetris, and I love it. It's I think it's what's called a chest pattern. So like one of the garments that's worn in Palestine, traditional garment, is like a long shirt called a thobe, and this is usually on like a chest piece right here. It's not symmetrical yet, but it will be. Like this pattern is going over on this side too to make it symmetrical, and then it comes down to a triangle down here. I love this so much. It's so pretty. The traditional colors are green and red, so I stuck with that, green and red. This is the red transitioning to black. That's PR068 Silks for You. And then this is either DMC 935 or 934, that dark green. They look great together. I love it. And did everybody see that that UNESCO named Palestinian Tetris? They put it on the list, World Heritage list, which is pretty awesome. I'm going to link that. I was poking around on the UNESCO. UNESCO is the United Nations Education and Scientific and Education, Science, and Cultural Organization, I think is what it is. And they sort of identify locations, but also practices that are like exceptional examples of humanity, like representing civilization and humanity. And so they just put Tetris on the list, which is pretty cool. There's a lot of cool stuff on that list. Like, I knew about this one already, but we have a site in Illinois that's on the World Heritage list, and it's called Cahokia. And it's so like native peoples in the Midwest were mound builders, and that the people who lived in Cahokia, it's in Illinois, just outside of St. Louis. That area was the biggest pre-Columbian settlement north of Mexico. Isn't that it's so fascinating. We have that history here. Anyway, so that's a protected site. So there are mounds there, and then there's a lot of like artifacts, but I think it's considered sort of like sacred. It's not I don't think they're supposed to be digging for research and stuff in there, because those are sacred sites. So I don't really know enough about it, but I'd like to go see that and read more about it. Anyway, that was Let's Tetris, traditional Palestinian pattern. Okay, next one is the katakana sampler. I have a picture of this one by Modern Folk Embroidery. It's the katakana characters. So katakana is one of 3 writing systems in Japan. Katakana is usually used for writing words that come from another language. So like if I was writing my name, which I don't know how to do in katakana, but if I was writing it, it would be using this alphabet. And this is a really tiny sampler. I was looking at, is the stitch count on here? No, it's not on this page. It's only like 120 by 90 or something. I was looking at that the other day. I thought, why have I not finished this? It's so small. But I'm using DMC 4000 is the dark. It variegates between brown and gray. And then this is limited edition teal by Color and Cotton, which is a favorite color of mine that I throw into everything. The fabric is 32 count. It's an even weave. It's picture this plus. I want to say it's dill, I think is the color. It's really pretty, right? Kind of soothing colors. Got to work on these things. Okay, next one is by the fantastic Ana Aguayo, who is Peruvian Flair. And I just love, so Ana stitches a lot of patterns from different native peoples who live in what is today Peru. And they're not all Incan. She's introduced other like other societies that have lived in that region. And so I don't remember which culture is represented in this one. I need to look it up. But this is lovebirds. And I love it. I love that border that's coming around. I like these little birds. I think they're so cute. This is a fabric. It's terribly wrinkly. Sorry about that. It's a fabric that I actually I dyed myself. I dyed it in hibiscus tea, which you can't really see any of the pinkness anymore. But the cool thing that happened is that I dyed it and then I dipped it in vinegar to set it. I thought that's what you do to set color. You dip it, you do a vinegar bath, and then I rinsed it out again. But I don't think all of the vinegar washed out, because then what I did is I squeezed it and then I laid it on top of a cookie baking rack, and all of the the vinegar reacted with the metal, like the bars of the baking rack, and it created like these little. Do you see those splotches that are in rows? But I kind of like it. And part of me wants to do it again on purpose because I like all the texture. See the like splotches of texture that are created. And if you look closely at them, it won't show up on my video, I don't think, but they have like a blue, it's basically patinaed is what it's happened. So it's like the very center of the splotches are kind of a coppery brown, and then they've gotten greenish, like a greenish blue around each splotch. So it was unintentional, but really, really pretty. So that's why I use this is Caribbean Bay DMC color variations, because it has that kind of tealy shade to it that sort of goes with those splotches. So, and then this is DMC 184. This fabric was originally, I want to say it was Access Commodities. I don't know what color, maybe Russian tea cake or something, like a neutral color from Access Commodities, but love that one. And I gotta finish it. Anna's patterns are really manageable sizes. They're all like 100 by 100 basically. So I should be chipping away at that one, but I haven't. I'm stitching a quote. Oh gosh, and I'm not going to remember the whole quote because I forgot to look it up. I'm stitching a quote by George Takei, and it's something like we should indeed keep calm in the face of difference and live our lives in wonder. Basically something about appreciating our differences. And I can't remember what the whole quote is. But I'm using a font that I purchased on Etsy. Not going to remember what it is, but I'll list it below. So I'm going to stitch his quote and his name, and then I want to put motifs representing differences. So maybe like different motifs representing different religions, maybe, or I don't know yet how I want to do the motifs. Or maybe some Asian motifs. I don't know. It was supposed to be a tribute to Asian Americans. And, you know, in the height of we were talking a lot this summer about attacks against Asian Americans. So that's kind of when I started stitching on this. But this is 37 or 38 count. It's Filbert by Access Commodities. And this is DMC 308, this blue. I like that one a lot. Font stitching is something that's pretty fun to do. It's very satisfying that it works out. Okay. This is Where Flowers Bloom by Hands Across the Sea. And I've stitched it on, well, I'm stitching it on. This is an XJU design. It's a 36 count linen. I think it's Light Blue Violet by XJU. And I'm using the called for silks, the 100.3 Overaswa silks to stitch it. And this is the one where I don't usually stitch kind of European-y samplers that have, you know, girls' names on them. I think they're very sweet and they have sweet motifs. I just don't personally connect to them very well. And I was just thinking, well, why not create? I mean, I'm not a girl from the 1800s Europe stitching a sampler. I'm a woman and a American woman of Indian origin in 2020, almost 2022, stitching a sampler. So let me have it reflect me and not someone else living in another time and place. So where flowers bloom, so does hope. I'm stitching the names of some people who give us hope. So Michelle's name is almost in there. I have a list and I don't know who all I'm going to include on it. Malala Yousafzai is on the list. Greta Thunberg, Jacinda Ardern's on the list. Miss Major, who's a trans activist, is on the list. So I have all these names, but they're not all going to fit. So I need to make some decisions. Basically, what I'm going to do is I want to finish this border and bring it around. And then there are a couple motifs that go along the sides here. Do I have a picture? Here's a picture. So basically, I'm replacing the house with names. So that's the space that I have to work with. And where Nicola has her name down there, I can put names down there too. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I just don't know how much space I have to work with on that. The font that I'm using for the names is another Lord Libidan. It's a free font. The Where Flowers Bloom, So Does Hope. That lettering was part of the pattern. That was already in the pattern. So the colors in it are really beautiful, bright colors. And yeah, like with everything else, I got to come back to it and chip away at it. Okay, next one is an Ink Circles pattern. And it's part of a series by Ink Circles. This is Forests of Sumatra. And there are 3 Sumatra Indonesian patterns. Actually, there's more than that. So Tracy Horner has those. It's like the big red ship of life and the comparatively small ship of life and moderately sized ship of life. Those ship of life patterns are based on Indonesian kain kapal, which is the sao that I'm starting. It's a traditional Indonesian ship cloth is what it's called. So it represents a ship and all these motifs that are supposed to represent stages of life, the different elements of life. And while researching Indonesian textiles and weavings to create the ships of life, Tracy Horner also just came across a lot of other textiles, Indonesian textiles. And that's where she came up with Forests of Sumatra, Dragons of Sumatra, and Squirrels, which is on my WIPGO board. So they're really, really pretty. She does a pretty nice job in her patterns of providing like context of where the patterns are from, which I really appreciate. Not every designer does that. Some designers stitch from other cultures and then don't give you any information on what it is. So I really appreciate she does that. This is 18 count. I want to say it's Fog by Picture This Plus. It's got like a very subtle variegation. You barely see it. It's got like tinges of beige in it. Anyway, I'm using Classic Colorworks Bejeweled to stitch it, and I really like how it's coming along. It's pretty, right? So it's another one I just got to get back to, but in reality, I probably won't get to this year because I just have so many other things I'm working on. A lot of these projects, let's face it, I'm not going to get back to them this year. If I really want to make my WIPGO projects a focus, then a lot of other projects are just going to have to sit in time out till 2023, I think. But I really enjoy this one a lot. I'm a big, big fan of Ink Circles. I just love all of their patterns. The Sunshine Stitchers are doing an Ink Circles month. Maybe April. What was it? Yeah, maybe April is Ink Circles. I don't remember. It's another pattern by D's 20 Stitches. And this is going to be the Unicorn Trans Pride Tapestry Unicorn. And I haven't done much on it since this summer, but gosh, just look at those motifs. They're so pretty. I love how they're fill-in. Now, these are fill-in, but they're very satisfying fill-in. I don't feel like it's a chore or anything like that, the way it was like when I was stitching Snow in Love. Maybe because it's just that was so much more fill-in than these are. I think I like that it's these separate motifs and you stitch it. It just looks really pretty when you sit back and look at it. Love that. So I made my way across the top, and luckily my fabric will be just barely the right size. This is a Fiberlicious. It's Sweet Tea is this fabric. Isn't it pretty? It's got nice modeling on it. It's like a pink and a blue mottled. This was the one I actually contacted Fiberlicious because I wanted pink and blue because those are trans pride colors. I asked, do you have anything that's pink with pink and blue mix? And this is the color they recommended. So it's perfect. It worked out great. Okay, moving right along here. This is another Peruvian flare pattern. I just love Peruvian flare. And this is called Tokapu. There are 2 versions of Tokapu. This is the first one. There's also a Tokapu 2. And these are, again, so these are based on indigenous patterns from what is now Peru. And I love this one. Do I have a picture? I'll put a picture up. It's basically like tiles, like these 9 tiles, and each one has a different geometric motif in it. And I'm using, this is an XJU design. It's a 28 count that came in a grab bag. So none of the fabrics had color names on them. It was just kind of a random assortment of these small. That's how big it is. It's really small, like an 8 by 11 or 9 by 11. And then the threads I'm using are, I have some Valdani, like this. See this variegated? It's like a purple and black variegated. That's Valdani. This cream and white variegated, that's Valdani. These are Gentle Art. That's Ruby Slipper, I know. I really like Ruby Slipper. This could be Burlap by Gentle Art. And then I want to come up with one other color to do. I think I want to stitch in these fill-ins. Instead of leaving it blue, I'm thinking of filling it in. Maybe I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do with that yet. Anyway, Tokapu by Peruvian Flare. That's a fun one to do. It's another one. The flaw with getting, like I've said before, 14 count Aida or 28 count linen is that I have to use 3 strands over it. So when you're using fancy flosses, it just eats up so much floss. So I just need to be a little more thoughtful about that. This one is also a Peruvian Flare pattern. It's Ayapayak. It's Temple of the Moon. I love it. So pretty. I'm almost done with this figure in the middle, and then this beautiful multicolor border is going to come in a diamond shape all the way around it. So I love that one. I need to add more of the same. I need to come back to all these projects I love so much. I'm using a whole variety of DMC on there, and it's not the called for. I just kind of grabbed from my stash anything that was kind of matching what was in the picture. So I'm doing that one. Okay. This is My Dreaming Girl by Barbara Anna. It's coming out great. I know exactly why I stopped working on it, and I'm going to stop making excuses and go back to working on this because it's so close to being done. So I am using, I don't know if you're going to be able, it won't even show. Oh, it kind of shows up. The top part of her hair is in dark brown, and the bottom part of her hair is in black. And so I was getting a little frustrated because I wish I had chosen like a better contrast between the two colors. Like this all is brown, the top half. This all down here is black. And the problem with that is that there are motifs in the top half, these kind of snowflakey motifs that now you can barely see because that black blends in with the brown of the hair. And it was kind of bothering me. So I was thinking, should I pull it all out? I mean, I have so much of it stitched. I'm not going to pull it out. I'm just going to go ahead and stitch it. I might try using, like, this is supposed to be me, right? So these white wisps are like my white hairs that are coming in. So I was thinking of maybe using that white color. It's not quite white. It's like a grayish silver color. And I was thinking of maybe back stitching around those snowflakey motifs just to help them stand out a little bit, because that's a big part of the pattern. It's really pretty. Those kind of Quakery patterns that are in the hair. And because they get washed out, I think I was kind of feeling a little frustrated, but maybe I'll put this down as a couch behind the couch pattern or behind the couch project and try to chip away at it. Basically, after the hair, there are a few buildings that are going to come in here, and that's it. It's almost done. There may be a building or something down below too. This is on 18 count Herald by Picture This Plus, and then I used my own DMC colors. I just kind of looked at the pattern, the model stitch, and used a whole mishmash of my own colors. So I really like it. I think I need to just be okay with those two hair colors and just keep going with it. Okay. Next one is Tiny Start on Krampus by D's 20. Oh, let me hold it up the right way. This is the right way. So you're seeing the top of the monster here, a little bit of the flames here, and like a tiny snowflake. Everybody was starting it on January 5th, which is like the eve when Krampus supposedly comes to grab the children. So I started it on that evening along with everybody else. And it's fun. This is 18 count Swiss Coffee by Color and Cotton. And I'm using my own colors. I didn't have the called for colors, so I just used my own. This is DMC 310. I don't know what the others are, but basically it has two, I want to say it has two blues and like an orange. So I think it should be fine. It's another fun one. I can't wait to come back to that one. Okay. Next one. This is by X Stitch Ann on Etsy. And it's called the Korea Sampler. Let me hold it up the right way. It goes like this. And it's just a bunch of, it's a stitcher from Korea. And so they have Etsy patterns all dedicated to Korea. Actually, they have other things too. They have Quakery things too. And but a good chunk of patterns that are with Korean language or Korean motifs. So I picked this one and I'm really enjoying stitching on it. I'm using some kind of Victorian motto that I don't remember. This right here is really fun. This motif is on the Korean flag, and I'm using a wool. It's a gentle art wool. It's my first time stitching with wool, and I really love it. I love the texture. It feels awesome. It looks really good. I like the kind of tapestry look to it, and it's variegated. It's actually gentle art. I have it right here, Ruby Slipper, which I ordered Ruby Slipper because I needed a little more for my Tokapu project, my Peruvian Flare Tokapu, and I accidentally ordered wool instead of the cotton floss. So then I thought, well, instead of returning it, let me just save it and I'll find something to do with it. And then when I found this project, I decided to try it out, and I'm so glad I did. It's really pretty. It's amazing that it's even kind of it has a little bit of variegation in it that comes through. It's really pretty. I would like to try stitching with more wool. It comes in a really thick strand. So this is 18 count chickpea by Color and Cotton. And I'm using just the one strand. It looks like it can be separated, but it's not really meant to be separated, I don't think. And it's a little, if I'm being nitpicky, that you can see a little bit of the fabric behind it. I usually like very dark coverage, and I can see a little bit, but I can live with it, mostly because the texture is just so beautiful on it. So that was the Korea Sampler by X Stitch Ann on Etsy. Okay, the next one is from Stitch E-Day magazine. I'm really embarrassed because I don't know what the name of the designer. It's a Japanese designer who made this Anne of Green Gables piece. And I haven't figured out yet how to, it's written in Japanese, and I need to get somebody to help me figure out what the designer's name is. So I'm putting it in this section because it's a Japanese designer, not because Anne of Green Gables is necessarily an example of representation or diversity. But I'm stitching this on 18 count sterling. Here's what I've got so far. It's coming along. I made a lot of progress on the bottom earlier this summer, the quilts. Marilla with the quilts there, and then Anne's in the center. The house is there. This is going to be a sign up here that says Prince Edward Island. And I'm using two DMC colors. I want to say that the green blue one I think is 501 or 500. The olivey green one is 732. And I just thought instead of going with like a conventional bright green, just thought it might be kind of interesting to go with some alternative greens. And I like the effect of it. And it allows you to play with some contrasting colors in the motifs. So that's been a nice one. It stitches up quickly, and it'll be fun to chip away at that one too. Okay, the last one in this category is, actually, I'm showing it to you, but I'm putting it aside because I think I need to restart it. It's Vienberg Designs. It's Patchwork Quakers States. And I love this pattern. I think it's so, so pretty. I love Quakers in general. And my intent with this one was to have it be a Quaker that has the names of, I would have to remove some of these motifs, I think. I want to read BIPOC voices, read books by a wide variety of people that represent who we are today, and then stitch those authors' names into the piece so that it kind of represents what I've been reading and it's a representation of who we are. It's another way of stitching something that looks samplery but represents who we are today. My problem is, it's looking okay. Here's what it looks like so far. So what I do is I try to read, when I pull this out to stitch on it, I read from something first and then I stitch on it. And I'm keeping kind of a little list of what I've been reading. But I made the mistake of starting this on a 25 count. So it won't be easy. I don't think I can backstitch on 25 count. Backstitch the names. That I didn't plan that properly. And I started stitching with 2 strands over the 25 count because the one strand didn't feel like enough coverage. But in the end, I should have stuck with 1 strand because it's looking really tight and kind of bunched up. So I need to restart this one. I have stash fabric. I'll look for something and restart it. So that's kind of in a timeout for a little bit, but I'll come back to it and I'll figure something out for that one. That was Vienberg Designs, Patchwork Quaker States. There are like 4 or 5 different versions of Patchwork Quakers by Vienberg. If you watch Shiloh Cross Stitch MD, she's doing, I think, Monet's Garden. She reached a big milestone on that one. She maybe got to a third of it or something, or third left, something like that. And there are other versions of it too. They're all really pretty color combos. That Monet's Garden one is all greens, very pretty. Okay, we got more to go. Let me put these away and then I'll grab the next stack and I'll be right back with you. Okay, everyone. So the next group is what I'm calling family inspired pieces. So my family is my partner, Steve, and me. Our parents are in the area too, my sister and her family, and then Steve's folks in Oklahoma City. So that's our close family. I have aunts and uncles nearby too, but usually it's just we're the kind of local area people here. So I have a few things to show you. So my dad, this was a real tough year for my dad. Going way back to March, he had some medical issues and he thinks of himself as invincible, really strong, and he had some stuff that just knocked him back quite a bit. So he's doing much better now. We're all really happy that he's recovered and doing well. And early on in March, when he was going through so much difficulty, I had subscribed to one of these boxes from Cotton and Twine, and their pattern just arrived right in the middle of all of Dad's medical stuff, and it's called Hope. And so every time I look at this pattern, I think of my dad and just my family too, everything that was going on around that time. So I do have a picture. Here's what it looks like. So I don't usually do what I've come to learn is subscription boxes are really not for me. I feel like I want to get a good deal out of them, but then they're not really a good deal. And then, there's like a tinge of disappointment in them. So they're just not for me. I did try this one though. It was a really lovely pattern and it has sentimental value now. So I'm glad that I have it. And I'm stitching it with the kit. It came with threads. Aren't they pretty? They're kind of bright, cheerful colors. And then I'm using a 32 count. It's an even weave, teeny piece of even weave. I'm stitching it 1/1 on, I think it's platinum. It looks like platinum. So it's pretty, all kind of neutrally light colors. So I think it'll be really nice. I don't know if you're going to see, there's like a little bit of color changing going on in this motif. There's pink, light pink on the inside and darker on the outside. It's pretty. They're doing some nice things with that pattern. Okay, next one. So I stitch a lot of patterns with bicycles in them because my partner Steve, he's a historian, but he's also a tour guide, a cycling tour guide. He tours the neighborhoods of Chicago, and he talks about history. So anytime I can find a pattern with bicycles in it, I feel like that represents him in our household. So of course, am I going to say no to an Ink Circles patterns with cycles in it? No, of course not. So this is Reflections of Amsterdam, and it's got teeny tiny bicycles in it. And I started this ages ago. It's on maybe a Woodland Zweigert. I think it's called Woodland. And I have a couple of the buildings and a bicycle done, and that's about it. This is one of their smaller patterns. It's like in the whole series of Reflections where they're all like 115 by 115 stitches. That's what this one is. And I'm using, I don't know if this is 36 or 40 count. Zweigart linen, and then I'm using Wavy Navy by Classic Colorworks, and that's the colorway. So it's got a tiny bit of variegation. It's like a navy blue and a slate blue that are in that one. So it's super cute. I need to go back to it, as with everything. Next one is in ink circles too. This is called Half the Fun. Looks like this. And this one too kind of reminds me of both me and Steve. We love to travel. We haven't traveled since before the pandemic, really. So we're both not yet ready to be around crowds of people. I know it's different for everybody what you think about that. I'm definitely not ready to do that. This is a very cute pattern though. It's got all these different forms of transportation on it. And so I started that one, and I put that on a 40 count feldspar by Picture This Plus. It's a very pretty fabric. Let me see if you can get it. It's like a variegated. Do you see how it's modeled with like blue and tan in it? It's very pretty. And I started a little bit. It's with DMC 4240, I think is the color. It's a color variations. And this is what I used in my cross stitch journal from a couple videos ago. And it variegates from a navy blue to a paler blue to a purple. Very, very pretty variegated thread. So far, it looks like I've got a teeny tiny bicycle there, a funicular. There's a donkey. This is the engine of a train, but the train itself I haven't finished yet. It'll like trail back this way. And then a couple hot air balloons, and there's a ship right here, teeny tiny ship. So that's a fun one. I need to go back to it. It's really cute. Check that fabric. Isn't that pretty? Yeah, I need to go back to that one too. Okay, the next one is the Linens and Threads sampler. It was the sampler from 2020, and I think I want to say it was called Family and Friends, but it was a Quaker sampler, and then you stitch in the initials of your family members. And so here's my start on it. I love this one. It's really pretty. I'm using DMC colors that I've selected, but the color palette was suggested by Jacob at Modern Folk Embroidery in one of his early videos. He suggested that a really nice color palette would be 3 shades of blue and like an ochre, a yellowy brown color. So I just kind of played around with some different DMC colors, and these are the ones I settled on. 939 is the darkest. I want to say that that's like 798 or 799. This is 30. I'm not going to remember. 37 something is the lightest one. And then the ochre, I'm not going to remember either. It's not 783 or 793, but it's in that family, I think. I'm really liking it. He also suggested to do some of the motifs solid color and then some of the motifs variegated, which you take shorter strands of each color so that you're stitching a few stitches in one color, then you have to really quick switch it out to another one, and so on. So like this motif here, that's what's going on. So I like it. I need to just get back to it. I don't know why I'm not always drawn to it. Maybe because it's so large. Catherine, Neat and Not by the Sea, Catherine is doing a really beautiful one. I want to say hers is in like these pretty orangey peach tones. I think that's the one. And she's way farther on it. She's done much more on it than I have. So if you want to see a really pretty one, that's a nice one to see. Next one is The Inheritance by Summerhouse Stitchworks. And this one I'm making a tribute to kind of like the Indian side of my background. So I'm choosing colors that are in the Indian flag. So greens and oranges. These are all classic colorworks. The bright orange is Embers. One of these is Go Emerald. I think it's the darker green is Go Emerald, which I know it's already looking kind of more Ireland than India. And then I think Grasshopper is the lighter green. But my idea for this is I want to finish it and then see this is another one where you stitch the initials of your family. But what I'm going to try to do is to chart like a blackwork, a backstitched, the first names of all my family members in Tamil, which is our South Indian language that we speak. So that's kind of my idea. So I haven't even started on that. This is like on the back burner because I have so many other things going on. But that's the plan. I'm going to see if I can backstitch. And maybe I'll bring in some white for that because technically there's white on the Indian flag too, and I don't have that represented here. So maybe I'll do the names in white or something. or I'll probably choose the darkest color just because it'll stand out better. So that was Inheritance, Summer House Stitchworks. I love Summer House Stitchworks. They have some really pretty patterns. I'm going to be starting the Fragments of Time 2018 series on New Year's Day. Okay, the next two kind of go together, and they're a reference to Star Trek. So this is Tea Earl Grey Hot, and it's a 2x2 stitch pattern for an alphabet sampler, but I'm using those motifs and a free font by Lord Libidan, and I'm making it my own thing. So like the alphabet sampler is much larger and it has all the letters of the alphabet in square, like each one is in a square, so it's a large piece. I'm just taking the border from it, which I really like, and a couple of the motifs, and I'm going to try to make it work. It's been working fine. It takes a little bit of, you have to measure a little bit, like I had to leave a little bit of gap here to make sure that the border ended up flush, that there were enough stitches, the border could get across and not get cut off. So I'm having to do a little bit of calculation to figure out, like this viney border, I'm really nervous about making sure it'll make its way all the way around. It worked out okay. It just happened to work out okay on this corner. So now I just need to make sure I can get it all the way around. But I think I can figure something out, make it work. So the companion piece to this, I'm doing the same thing, same pattern by 2x2 stitch using that alphabet sampler, but I'm also stitching a coffee black, and it'll do the exact same thing, same border and everything. I'm just going to have both pieces. This is a reference to Star Trek Voyager. So these are the orders in the replicators that the captains would place. So in Next Generation Picard, this would be his order, his drink order in the replicator, and then Janeway would always order coffee black. So Steve grew up watching Star Trek. That's big in his family, and I am a newcomer to it, but I love it too. I love both of those series so much, so it'll be fun to have those hanging in our kitchen. Okay, next one is a full coverage piece. I'm going to have to put a picture up for you, I think. So I took one of Steve's, he doesn't know about this. I took one of his photographs. He photographed, while he's doing his research, his Chicago history research, he will take a lot of pictures. He cycles around, he bikes to everywhere, and he'll take pictures in front of different locations, street art, important buildings, all kinds of stuff. And he'll put his bike in the picture. So I took one of his photos and put it into Pick-to-Pat and had it charted out as a cross stitch pattern. So I'm going to try to stitch it. So I just got the first bit of one. This is on an easy grid, 25 count easy grid. And I'm tent stitching it, which means I'm only stitching half the stitch, but I'm using 2 strands. So it's like a really thick half stitch. And it's pretty okay. Like when you see it, you're probably not seeing too many gaps. White fabric, I'm seeing a little bit, so it's getting to me a little bit, but I think it'll be okay. I need to see where I can't, like this is the edge, and this is not his tire, but it's like there's a shadow of a tire. I think that's what this is. And then his actual cycle tire will come over here. So I like that one. I've been toying around with the idea of maybe, not right now because I want WIPGO to be my focus right now, but maybe over the summer when I'm on break again to 25/7 this maybe, and just see what happens. I have so little experience with full coverage pieces, but I really enjoy watching people's progress on full coverage pieces. I find it very inspiring. Like my 2 favorites are Debbie, Mama Bear Stitchery. She's doing that hippo piece right now, which is just stunning. Like it should be in a museum or something. And then Vani, who's Thread the Needle. They are able to do so much with full coverage. It makes you want to pick up your full coverage pieces and give them a try. So I think I need to do something more targeted with that, just to chip away at it and see if I like, you need to do like a page or something before you can really get a sense of what's going on in the pattern. So maybe this summer, maybe I'll think about doing that. Okay, this is another one Steve doesn't know about, but he's a big Star Wars fan. And so I am stitching from Awesome Pattern Studio, a Millennium Falcon. I'll put a picture up as usual. And this is one of the tips of the ship, and there will be a parallel one right here. And then it'll go to like the round motif down here. And then there's different kind of like intergalactic sort of starry kind of things happening all around in the pattern. I don't remember what this fabric is. Oh, it's Fiber on a Whim. It's Night Sky by Fiber on a Whim. So I just thought it would be nice for like an outer space pattern. It's got some nice modeling on it. So that the pattern by Awesome Pattern Studio, it's full coverage, but I'm going to not stitch parts of it and leave this showing just because it is so pretty. The fabric's so pretty. So I'll stitch certain motifs and leave other bits. Just with the fabric showing on that. Got through the family part, guys. So, okay. Or everyone, sorry, trying not to use guys all the time. Give me a second here. I'm going to put this stack away. And I think I have a stack that with just a few pieces that I don't know if I'm going to show in the end because they're kind of in timeout. So I think I'll just leave them in timeout. That means I only have one stack left to show you. And it's basically like the projects that I'm categorizing as other. They don't fit any of the other stacks. So it's going to be kind of a mishmash of everything. So let me put these away and I'm going to grab that stack. I'll be right back.